Oh, what do we have here? It's a beautiful day. It's a guy commenting on what a beautiful day. What a nice place this is to go hide from a virus. And there's mint that smells minty, and crickets that totally drown his voice out, so he has to redo a voiceover. What's he here for? He's here to show off some whirligigs, like this green one that's low poly, and so it has facets that catch the light in a very attractive way. It has 4 veins on it, so 4-fold symmetry. It's essentially 2 planes that are overlapped and twisted. And the way to tie into that is it just has a hole at the top that you can hook into. Now, how about this red one? This red one has a flat bottom, which means you can actually print it in vase mode. So if you hold it up to the camera, you can see, yeah, it's hollow inside. In fact, that means you can print a little loop that just slides all the way up through it and then comes out the top. There's a hole in the top because vase mode can't actually print a top surface. And then you can hook onto it with a fishing swivel, which kind of sort of works. You can see it gets beat up and twisted and occasionally locks up, so the string gets all twisted until it turns into one giant knot. So it works for a while. It kind of sort of works. It's a good first step. We're going to have to improve on that. Now what's he going to show us? Come on, what are you going to show us? Keep it moving. How about that silver one? Nope, the green one. All right, those are both 4-fold. Now you're going to show us the 3-fold, the one with 3 blades on it. And this one has subdivision surface, so it's nice and smooth, catches the light in a different way. It's also vase mode. And the way we connect it to this is with an eye hook that's basically screwed into a little 3D printed cylinder. So there's a bit of a swivel already built into this one, and that actually works pretty well. Holds up pretty well as long as the top doesn't, break off in a really high wind. These things can get really beat up around here, but they've held up impressively well. These are all printed in PLA. This one is just basically a single sheet that's been twisted to give us, so it's either 2 veins or just 1 sheet, depending on how you think about it. Also printed in vase mode. Now this is the one we're actually going to show you how to make today, and there's actually 2 different ways of making it. There's the initial way, and then there's a better way that we'll get to later that's a little more flexible. So let's move on to that. Okay, we're in Blender. Let's try deleting everything, creating a circle. See how that works. Of course, we need to subdivide it. Just having one face is not going to work. Problem is, if you want nice square facets, doing something like a remesh modifier, as you can see, doesn't really work. Either the facets are too small or it's not a circle anymore. So let's instead start with a square, and then we can subdivide it, get nice square facets on it, lots of faces, and add a circle, and then do a knife project onto it with that circle. So now we have this circular cut. We can select everything inside the circle, select a couple corners, delete everything else. There you go. There's our basic shape. You do want to make sure you get the faces right where the circle meets the square. I didn't do that. I had to go back and add them in again. Now what we can do is select the very top surface. Oh, first I extruded it, get it 3D, and now select the top. And with proportional editing on, a nice linear fall off, rotate that in Z, say, let's do 360. That's about what I did. And you can see, there's the result. Now we can duplicate that, rotate it 90 degrees, Boolean those 2 together. And that's pretty much our basic shape. We need some way to hang it. So, First thing I thought I'd try is chop the bottom off. That would make it easier to print, but I didn't really like that look, so reverse that, add that back. Okay, now to hang it. Let's create a cylinder. Go ahead, create the cylinder. You can do it. There we go. Rotate that, drop it down, and just use that as a Boolean tool to punch a hole right through the top. So that's pretty much what we did. And there's our basic shape. So now we can, once that's exported, we can import it into Slicer. Whoops, it's too big. Go ahead, shrink it down. Try it with the supports on build plate. Way too many supports. So let's limit the supports to the first, say, 200 layers or so. And voila. That should give it enough, bonding to the build plate to print. So we can go ahead and print. And there's our result. Okay, here's the final solution. It's almost completely procedural. The only thing that is not procedural is the twist of these individual fins, but you can modify that manually. Let's take a look at the procedures. They're all done in the modifier panels. If we turn them all off, what we have is just a simple fin. This is one sheet. There's no thickness here, so it's just a set of faces. And the first modifier is the array for if you want to make a series of beads in different sizes. You can control the number by controlling this cone. Right now it's at Z position 3. If we change it to 2, we only get 2. If we change it to 10, you get 10, which is kind of ridiculous, but you never know. Maybe you want to hang something from the eaves of your house. Let's go back to 3. Okay, you can control the scale, the drop-off, with this empty fin duplicate. You can either make them all the same size, make them fall off very quickly. You can control the spacing by grabbing it in Z, moving it up and down. Now, the next array controls how many fins you have here, and the rotation is set by this controller. So RZ, I can change the rotation. So let's say I wanted to go, right now I have 3. What if I wanted to go to 4? Well, now I need to change the rotation. This is every 120 degrees. Change that to 90. Boom, now I have 4. So if you want 4, 5, 6, however many you want, you can do that. Now, these are not manifold. They're just, 0 thickness. So that's where the solidify modifier comes in. So you can solidify them. And of course you can, adjust the thickness, make them chunkier if you want. That's all fine. And next we need to put in a spine. That's what this does. Turn it on, and it adds this cylinder up the middle, which is a little harder to see now that I've made them chunkier, but you get the idea. And this cylinder is also controlled by this control, so that you don't have to worry about it. When you scale it, the cylinder scales along with it, although not in X and Y, only in Z. So the cylinder stays the same thickness all the way up all the way up the chain. And lastly is just the Boolean with your remove the hole, put a bore all the way through, and that's it. That's the final one. I will include a link to it down in the notes so you can play around with it, and I'll be curious to see what you guys make. So once that was done, all that was left was to print them out. There were 5 in all, plus a plumb bob that you can see sitting in front of me right there. I really like this material. It's a rainbow pattern. Unfortunately, I had some failures in the prints, so the rainbow is not continuous all the way down. And if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't have them taper as quickly, so the lower ones are that much smaller than the higher ones. But that's neither here nor there. So what I'm doing here is using a knitting needle to push out the any debris in the hole there, and then you can just push the ball chain through one ball at a time till it comes out the bottom. It's a little bit of a laborious process, but it didn't take too long. Then what I was doing is cutting off the sections, so each bead, as it were, is on its own section of chain, and then using couplings to hold them together. The couplings are just big enough that they will not pass through the hole. So this lets you sort of establish the spacing. So you can see what I'm doing here is I had to go get some drill bits because there was some problem with the prints on the smaller ones, and that sort of cleared out the debris enough that I was able to get the chain to go through. And once I've done that, now I've got 3, so I have 2 more to go. Smaller ones. So ironically, the smaller ones were actually harder. You'd think they'd be easier. But once I had the small ones, all that was left was that plumb bob, which is actually hollow so that I can fill it with sand and add some weight to the bottom to keep it from blowing around in the wind too much. I found needle nose pliers were very useful for getting the support material off and also clearing out some of the debris that tended to form right at the end. Oreo is always supervising me as I go. There we go. So that's what it looks like all together. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to be producing more of these. And thank you and good night.